Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Haven't seen you guys for ages now. I made my most recent opinion video on Shaman for the War Within, but that was still the alpha build that we had a couple months ago, and I addressed some of the changes that I would like to see for Shamans and Restoration Shamans in particular. Very happy to see that a lot of those same changes that I addressed did indeed make it to live and did indeed make it to the talent tree overhaul that we so wanted. And I'm gonna go over and give you a quick TLDR on my opinion on how Restoration Shamans are gonna be performing in the War Within, at least for Season 1. Obviously, there's still a lot of tuning and bug fixes to be had, but so far I can give you my opinion from a gameplay point of view and enjoyment as someone who has been playing the spec for many years and naturally has experience with mythic progression in terms of rating, etc. And I'm also going to go over the changes that they did to the class tree, the spec tree. I'll also go over some of the changes that I still hope that they address in a future patch, because I don't believe it's going to be happening now, since we have pre-patch right around the corner. It's actually been confirmed yesterday that it's going to be on the 23rd of July, so that's a little more than just a week from now, since I'm making this video. And yeah, like I said, I'm gonna go over that and as a whole talk about Shaman in the War Within and see how it could potentially perform. But yeah, let's go ahead and start with the quick TLDR. The quick TLDR is that I feel like with the most recent changes, I feel that Restoration Shamans specifically will be performing very well in terms of throughput, especially. Our healing got a lot better. We are pretty much almost 2 minute healing throughput machines. We have Ascendance from 3 minutes back to 2 minutes if you talent into the talent beneath Ascendance. We also have the possibility of having Healing Tide, which is a very big cooldown that's got buffed ever since at some point in one of the builds. And you can have that back to 2 minutes as well. And you can also have AG, which is the full 2 minutes. So I feel like our healing is going to be very good, especially when you consider that Spouting Spirits is back, which is the talent beneath Spirit Link, which makes Spirit Link yet another big cooldown. In terms of damage output, I feel like Shaman is lacking a bit, at least in Mythic Plus. That being said, with keys being so overtuned right now, I feel I have very little time to DPS. That being said, our passive DPS is fine, but with having so much healing to do and CCing, etc., just the casual Mythic Plus utilities that you need to have, I feel like I have very little time to do active DPS, and because of that, my DPS is not as high as I want it to be, or I've seen it in the past. That being said, I still feel like our performance is gonna be super fine. If you've been playing RSham in the past, you'll definitely feel the changes in terms of our throughput. It's a lot better, and I mean a lot better. Healing is so much more rewarding as Restoration Shaman now, and we still have a very solid toolkit for Mythic Plus, probably even better since you can probably take Lightning Lasso, which is a single target CC, now in keys, which has a lot more. It's very easy to access pretty much now. And yeah, like I said, I feel like in Season 1, both in raids and in keys, Restoration Shamans will be very solid. It would be silly of me to say that they're going to be meta as of now, because there's still a lot of tuning to be had, and I haven't looked at all the remaining healers. That being said, I I cannot say which healer spec is gonna be meta. I don't think Restoration Shaman is gonna be meta, but it will be very solid and it will be up there in the highest keys, which I'm sure we will be able to perform in. So yeah, that's pretty much my TLDR. I think if you want to play Shaman, you'll be very comfortable playing it. You will like it. The changes that they made to the spec are really, really good. We are going to be very solid, and I feel like you're going to have a great time, and we will not regret it. That's pretty much it for the TLDR. Oh, and also we have a reason to be brought in for groups, which is our new raid buff, which I can actually start talking about it now. So our new group slash raid white buff is Skyfury. Skyfury, sorry, enhancement shamans, is the old Skyfury totem. That being said, now it is a 60-minute buff. It grants the group slash raid 2% mastery. I'll go over in a bit that this is not actually 2% mastery. It's actually, I read in a Wowhead post or in a Shaman post that it's actually mastery points, so it's not actually just flat out 2% mastery, and it's gonna differ from spec to spec how much mastery you gain from Skyfury. And empower their aura attacks to have a 20% chance to instantly strike again for 1 hour. This is a great buff for my comp. If you know me, I've been playing, we're kind of like the stubborn non-meta comp, and there are seasons where we perform super great, others not so much. Well, it also depends if our specs are great in that season. But shamans in a heavy melee comp are really good now, especially because of this buff. If you know me, you know that I play with crit, which is who's a warrior in this case. Skyfury will be benefiting more dependent on the spec that he's playing. But still, at the end of the day, it's also mastery that I'm giving, not just the auto attack benefit. I also play with Curva, my beloved friend Rest Paladin. And obviously, melee specs love this buff, some more than others, but at the end of the day, a very, very good group buff, and quite strong, if I'm gonna be honest. So yeah, I feel like out of all the Shaman specs, obviously depending on tuning, Restoration Shamans have a lot to give to the group. Not only you have Skyfury, you have things like AV, which is a 1 node, which I don't want to talk too much about now because I'm going to go over it soon. But you have Vigor, which is very easy to access, which is 10% extra HP, which is literally powered fortitude. Something very strong we've had forever, pretty much, but people kind of sleep on. It's a very good survivability tool in high keys and in raid, especially in prog. We have Downpour now as well, that gives you an extra 10% extra HP. And just overall, I feel like Restoration Shamans now have a lot to give. On top of all the utility we had, like Windrush, Poison Cleansing Totem, all of our crowd control capabilities with Knockup, which is a 20-second city, if I'm correct, 25, but very short cooldown as well. You have Cap Totem, you have Earth Grab, Decurse, Purge, Lightning Lasso. Did I forget something? Probably. Ankh Totem, Spirit Link. You know, we have so much utility, and now we have a group of, and our survivability is great for others. Still no external, but that's fine for the most part. But super happy, and I think Shamans will be in a solid spot when it comes to bringing them for Raid or Mythic Plus. So let's talk about our talent tree overhaul. And let's start with our class tree. Our class tree is very, very good. It's very solid. All the changes that they did are very good for us in terms of picking all the things that we want. In this case, a lot of talents that were previously 2 points are now a 1 point, like Nature's Fury, Elemental Warding, um, Nature's Guardian, I think. I don't remember it being a 1 point node. Maybe it was. But yeah, like I said, a lot of these are now a 1 point node, which is very welcoming and makes it a lot easier to take. And also at the same time, previously you felt bad because there were points that you had to sacrifice when you had to grab utility, and now I never feel like I'm sacrificing throughput to grab utility, and that is great. I actually have spare points when I grab everything that I want, and that's great. And then when I have to sacrifice stuff, I don't feel as bad as I did previously in the past. Like, if I want decurs, I could probably just drop CDR on Totemic Recall, or I could potentially, I don't need Poison Cleansing Totem, so I'm gonna go for decurs, and I can go back to the CDR on Totemic Recall. There's a lot to go to, but yeah, pretty much everything here at the start looks kind of the same, except for Gust of Wind is here, and finally, if you were excited as I was back in the beginning of Dragonflight, and you saw that Gust of Wind was making a comeback, but actually, outside of Raid as a Resto Shaman, you never played with Gust of Wind or Spirit Walk. I understand your frustration, because we were literally never able to pick this in Mythic Plus unless you sacrificed a whole bunch of throughput and utility, and it felt awful. Um, but now it's literally so accessible to path through, and it's also behind something that is very tied to movement, and or damage reduction, which is also very welcoming. So Gust of Wind, huge thumbs up. Very happy to see it here, and very happy to see where it's at and how easy it is to take. In terms of everything else, they give a quirky slash gimmicky talent choice notes to Frostshock. This is mostly just a PvP thing. You will not talent into this in PvE unless it's like something very, very niche with, I don't know, snaring a mob or whatever. We have Earth Ellie and Primordial Bond. Primordial Bond was previously something only Elemental Shamans had, which is 5% damage reduction combined with Earth Ellie. In my honest opinion, I would still like to see Primordial Bond baked into Earth Ellie, and I would like to see changes to Earth Ellie. I feel like Earth Ellie still is too much of a hefty cooldown. 5 minutes is too much. I feel like it could be 3 or 2.5 even, if you wanted to make it's still somewhat of a hefty cooldown. And I feel like they need to make Earth Ellie change the way it works, because Earth Ellie is either a great tool only for bosses because it actually lasts the whole duration 1 minute, or it's awful as a defensive in trash packs where you need to use it because mainly of two reasons. One, it instantly taunts the pack and dies in a global, and all of a sudden your 5 minute cooldown is gone because Earth Ellie taunts mobs, kind of like trees for boomkins. The second reason is that because it taunts the trash packs in melee, it can literally do a 360 to your comp. In my case, I play with a full melee comp, and probably kill them with fervent strikes or frontals, and that's awful. If you are a restoration shaman and if you played with Earth Ellie before, you know that it's mainly just a boss survivability tool because naturally it's not gonna taunt a boss. But in trash packs, it's actually a very dangerous tool, and I kind of wish they did changes to Earth Ellie to how it works because it still is a big problem in my opinion. But other than that, a very welcoming change. 5% DR, always cool to see damage reduction where we can possibly have. Nature's Guardian swapped places. It was around here, I believe, but it was very hard for other Shaman specs to path through. For us, it's great, actually, even better than it was before for us as well. So it's just pretty much you either take Purge or Cap CDR or Gust of Wind, and that's pretty much the easiest way to path through it. Totemic Focus and Surge also went from 2 points to 1 point. Hex and Voodoo Mastery change positions from here to here, which is also very welcoming. We got a change to Thunderstorm instead of the other talent choice, which I completely forgot. Oh, it was Lightning Lasso. In Dragonflight, we have Thundershock, which is a knockup, or Lightning Lasso here. This is a PvP talent, Traveling Storms. This is kind of like Shining Force for priests back in Shadowlands and BFA. It allows you to cast Thunderstorm on a friendly ally, mouse over them, and it's gonna cast Thunderstorm on them and knock mobs away from that same person. Very cool. Probably very niche still, but probably something you could potentially play in raid. But yeah. We have a new talent, Enhanced Imbues. This increases the effects on our weapon imbues by 20%. It's currently bugged, but it should, in theory, buff Earth Living Weapon by 20%. We also have new talent choice nodes beneath Windrush. Very cool ones, actually. We have Ascending Air. Windrush Totem's cooldown is reduced by 30 seconds, and its movement speed effect lasts an additional 2 seconds. And you have Jetstream, which is probably my favorite. Windrush Totem's movement speed bonus is increased by 10% and now removes snares. This now removes snares part is very cool as, for example, well, it's something that's gonna disappear quite soon, but in Halls of Infusion, for example, in the Dragon Packs, at the very end of the dungeon, the dot is a snare, and this would be some sort of master spell because everyone would get the dot, you would place Windrush Totem, and everyone would get rid of the dot. So if there's some sort of snare that has a dot damage attached to it, this is going to be a very, very solid thing, especially because you can place Windrush, recall, and have Windrush back again, especially if it's going to be ready for a second AoE. So really like the talents beneath Windrush. We have a very interesting passive talent now. It's Seasoned Winds. Interrupting a spell with Wind Shear decreases your damage taken from that spell school by 15% for 18 seconds and stacks up to 2 times. This is a very interesting defensive talent, and quite strong, actually. I can give you an example, for example. In Ruby Life Pools, if you kick a firebolt in the ring area upstairs, pretty much you have a fire damage reduction for the entire duration of the Fire Destroyer's AoE damage component, which is quite strong. So it's quite a strong passive DR. That being said, it's kind of niche because you have to detect or know if you have some sort of damage school type of damage event happening, and afterwards that same damage school happening again. I do have to admit that Seasoned Winds is positioned in a very weird spot, in my opinion. I feel like it would make sense for it to be beneath Wind Shear, because there's this weird scenario where you don't take Wind Shear, but you take Seasoned Winds, and I don't think that makes sense at all. But it would make sense that it's a talent choice beneath Wind Shear. Ancestral Wolf Affinity is also something very niche, and definitely would be welcoming to swap places with Seasoned Winds. It's mostly a PvP thing, Wolf Affinity, but yeah. Refreshing Waters was something only us Restoration Shamans had, and now it's into the class tree, which is nice. I feel like every Shaman spec can benefit from this, and it makes more sense. They changed a bit of the part of the class tree around here, especially last week, because it was very bad for enhancement Shamans, especially to take Ancestral Guidance because it was beneath Spearwalker's Grace, and as you know, it makes no sense for them because they're a fully instant melee spec, so having something that allows you to cast while moving makes no sense for them. So it makes sense that Ancestral Guidance is easier to take and not forcing you to go into Spirocla's Grace. They made it so Lightning Lasso is its own thing now, and it's quite accessible to talent into, and it's really cool because it's a new form of single target CC that we as shamans have access to, which is great, more utility. And then everything else is the same. They also moved Winds of Allah Akir to the upper part of the tree. It's also a 1-point node. Still kind of confused as to why this talent is a thing. I mean, it's okay at best, but even then, it's such a gimmicky thing because sure, the 10% extra movement speed bonus is nice, but this, when you have 3 or more totems active, your movement speed is increased by 15%, is so niche because you're never gonna min-max around 3 totems. It's just, if it happens, it happens, you know? And I don't know, I kind of wish it was something else. But yeah, overall, very happy with the class 3 changes. Can't really complain. And now when it comes to our Spec Tree changes, also somewhat very, very happy to see a lot of the changes that they did. A lot of the talents and old spells slash effects that we had in Shadowlands and in Dragonflight, well, not actually in Shadowlands, but mostly in Dragonflight, made a comeback. And most noticeably, the thing that they did with our Spec Tree is that they cut down every 2 talent point or down to a 1 point talent, which was pretty much my main concern back in the War Within Alpha video. Mostly Deluge went from 2 points to 1 point, so did Vigor, so did Torrent, and so did Tidebringer, Earthen Harmony, and I think that's mainly it. Improved Earth Living Weapon as well. And yeah, we also got some very new cool talents, mostly Tidewaters. I'm so happy to see Tidewaters back. It's a very strong Capstone talent. It was our 2-piece Season 2 Dragonfly bonus that whenever you casted Healing Rain, everyone affected by Riptide would get area healed by a certain amount, and this is very cool and very potent actually. We have our Season 1 4-piece bonus making a comeback. Kind of surprised this actually made a comeback in the first place, but not mad about it. It just makes it so that your critical heals have 215% effectiveness instead of the usual 200%. But yeah, pretty much if you look at the look of the Spec Tree, at least the first half of the tree is pretty much the same, except for they removed Stormkeeper. Stormkeeper is gone, and in my opinion, that's fine. I was never a big fan of Stormkeeper. It was nice in very niche scenarios, like in Breckenhide on the totems. Restoration Shaman's like damage was really good just because of Stormkeeper, because we had like this very big burst single target that you had to nuke something within a very short window of time. And in that regard, it was great. But other than that, it was kind of awkward to use. And I'm happy, for example, that they removed Lava Surge from the Spec Tree and instead made it baseline. So as you can see, it is now a passive that Restoration Shamans learn. And this is great. Lava Surge, or rather, Lava Burst is such a good, hefty bit of our damage. And previously, if you spec'd out of Lava Surge, you could tell how much of a single target DPS loss it was for us, both in raids and in keys, especially in keys. And if you took Stormkeeper over Lava Surge, it's the exact same thing. You gain very little, or not little, but the discrepancy between Lava Surge or lava burst damage when you took lava surge was immense, because it's just so much easier to make use out of lava surge procs than to actively cast lava bursts and getting that damage out slower. So I'm not mad that Stormkeeper is gone. Now we can choose to have other throughput healing talents instead of sacrificing healing for damage when that damage now is some sort of baseline now, especially with Lava Surge. So Acid Rain is beneath healing right now, which is fine. We still have Overflowing Shores, which is questionable. I feel like I kind of wanted to see the sound gone because there's something about it that's just not good enough, and they could honestly just come up with something better and more interesting, because right now Overflowing Shores is just very weak. Torrent got changed this past week. It was actually a 2-point node, but they made it a 1-point node, and Riptide's initial healing is increased by 20% and has a 10% increased critical strike chance. We have the same talent choice nodes beneath Healing Tide. Healing Tide is a very, very potent 3-minute cooldown now, because they buffed it by 400%, and it actually feels like it does healing now. So Current Control is gonna be a very good pick for us. It makes so that Healing Tide Totem is a 2-minute CD now instead of a 3-minute, especially because they also changed Water Totem Mastery, not necessarily for the better, because the way they changed Water Totem Mastery is a bit RNG right now, but it's still, you can guarantee that Healing Tide will be a 2-minute cooldown, despite Current Control saying it's a 45-second cooldown, just because of Water Totem Mastery again. Resurgence swapped places from here to here, which is fine. Master of the Elements got reworked, so instead of you getting a nature damage amp after you cast Lava Burst, now the way this works is casting Lava Burst increases the healing of your next healing surge by 30%, stacking up to 2 times. And when you healing surge, so pretty much when you heal, you apply Flame Shock to a nearby enemy when empowered by Master of the Elements. So this pretty much just makes it so that when you're healing, another target gets Flame Shocked on them, and it's easier to spread Flame Shocks and then make use out of Lava Surge procs, which naturally all comes down to passive DPS, which is great. Restoration Shaman has always been something very tied to active damage, which was Lava Burst and Chain Lightning. And now we have a lot of sort of kind of like our old toolkit, but more in a passive way, which is also really welcoming, which it's gonna come down now to Acid Rain, Flame Shocks, Lava Burst, and then your active damage, which is Lava Burst, manually cast Lava Bursts, and Chain Lightning / Lightning Bolt. We have our old Azerite trait, Sparring Spirits back. This makes it so that Spiraling Totem reduces damage taken by an additional 5%, and it restores an extra amount of health to all nearby allies 1 second afterwards. It is dropped. Healing is reduced beyond 5 targets. This is a very, very potent healing CD now, especially when it's tied to Spirit Link. In keys, I love this because you can definitely feel the HP when people are healed after you drop Spirit Link, if people are low especially, and it is so good. I love it, honestly. They also reworked Spirwalker's Tidal Totem. It is no longer a 50% mana reduction on Healing Wave and Chain Heal, and there was something else which I kind of forgot. Now Mana Tide Totem, it makes your next 3 Healing Surge casts within 30 seconds reduced by 100%, and their mana cost is reduced by 50%. So now it's only tied to Healing Surge, and that's it. It's not tied to nor Chain Heal nor Healing Wave, which is more niche. It's also something that I don't think you'll be playing in keys that often. It could have its uses though, but I kind of wish they just made Manatite Totem baseline at this point and put something here, which I'll probably discuss later, like Earthen Harmony here, easier to access. Because I kind of would just like to see Manatite Totem back to being baseline and then make it more powerful just by itself. Because right now it's not that great. Not that great of a group slash rape thing. And yeah. They changed Ancestral Reach and Float of Tides from here to here, which is fine for the most part, in my opinion. Earthen Wall Totem and ABT are still the same thing. Earthen Harmony was here, and instead of being 2 points, is a 1 point talent node now. We have a new talent called Reactive Warding. When refreshing Earth Shield, your target is healed for X amount for each stack of Earth Shield they are missing. When refreshing Water Shield, you are refunded 5,000 mana for each stack of Water Shield missing. This is mostly just a PvP talent. Actually, all of the tree here, the right side of the tree, is mostly PvP related. Earthen Harmony, dependent on the build that you want to play, is very awkward to take, which I don't like, because mainly the only reason to take Earthen Harmony is for the damage reduction, which is really good in keys. And for example, for Totemic, where you play chain heal builds, chain heal center builds, it is very awkward to take Earthen Harmony unless you sacrifice Primordial Wave or something else, but even then, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. They also reworked Improved Earth Living Weapon. It receives 150% additional healing benefit from mastery, from our mastery pretty much. And Healing Surge always triggers Earth Living on its target. I still don't get why this talent is a thing. In PvE, it's very mediocre. This is clearly something for PvP, and I just don't understand why it's a thing. In my opinion, Earth Living Weapons should just be something baseline, and this should be a PvP talent. And yeah, like I don't get why we have PvP talents that have literally zero to little use in PvE. And then we still have DRE and Wellspring as a choice node. Wellspring got buffed 2-3 times at this point. It is a considerable option to take now in raids, but you have to guarantee that you hit all 20 people with it to make good use out of its healing throughput. Still kind of sucks that it's gated beneath talents that aren't that great, and especially when it's paired with DRE, which DRE is good on paper, even though it's annoying because it's RNG and no healer likes RNG. But yeah, I'll go over also where I would like to see some talent tree swaps a bit over in the video. They also made Tidebringer a 2-point node into a 1-point node. Kind of strong. Surprised that they reduced from 2 points back to a 1-point node. High Tide is here as a capstone, really strong. We have new Ascendance talent choice nodes. We have First Ascendance, which reduces the CDR, the CD on Ascendance by 1 minute. And then we have Preeminence. Your haste is increased by 25% while Ascendance is active, and its duration is increased by 3 seconds. If you proc the RE, you do get the haste component of this talent. However, you do not have the increased duration on Ascendance, so the extra 3 seconds. Just in case if people were wondering. And now we have Downpour. Downpour, I'm so happy with the rework with Downpour, because Downpour is great now. The way the new version of Downpour works is when you cast Healing Rain, you have a 6-second timeline to cast Downpour, which is within the Healing Rain's circle. And it heals for a bunch now. And also, it gives you 10% extra health, which this downpour is literally the same version as it was as our artifacts ability in Legion, which was Gift of the Queen, and it's pretty much the same thing, except now it's tied to Healing Rain, which I don't mind. I do, from the testing that I did, it does feel a bit awkward though, because usually you cast Healing Rain offensively on cooldown, so you get acid rain damage. But now, if you have a lot of stacked healing scenarios, you kind of hold yourself back from casting Healing Rain until you know that you're gonna need to cast Downpour within that 6-second timeline, so that the Downpour ability doesn't get wasted at all. And yeah, they also changed the location of Primal Tide Core. They removed all of the talent choice nodes beneath Primordial Wave, which I'm kind of glad, but at the same time, I'm kind of sad because, well, I'm happy that Primordial Wave is now continuous waves, pretty much by default, which is a 30-second cooldown instead of a 45, which is great. But it does suck to see that they removed all of the improved Primordial Wave benefits, which increase the healing from Healing Wave after you cast Primordial Wave by 25%. So Primordial Wave doesn't heal as much now as it did back in the day, just because of that as well. But that is also something that comes out to tuning, and I kind of hope that it gets addressed, because Primordial Wave kind of hits for a wet noodle at the moment, and I hope that it gets buffed because it's a great spell. I'm happy to see that Primordial Wave is still here, because it makes sense for the spec. It makes sense for spread AoE healing, which is something that we never had, and it helps the spec immensely, and I'm just happy that it's here still. And then, yeah, we have Tidewaters, which I already said I'm very happy to see. And I think that's it. I also noticed that I forgot to talk about this new talent in the class tree, which is Elemental Resistance. Healing from Healing Stream Totem reduces Fire Frost and nature damage taken by 6% for 3 seconds. And healing from Cloudburst Totem reduces Fire Frost and nature damage taken by 3% for 3 seconds. This is currently bugged, I think. So, still a bit hard to give my opinion on. Looks great on paper, but it's kind of still something that I would like to see somewhat changed. I feel like the duration is kind of whack, and honestly, you don't really play around it at all, so it kind of just happens. But I don't think it's integrated right now. It's still bugged, so unfortunately cannot give my full opinion on it. But yeah, so far in Keys, I've been playing both Totemic and Farseer. I do also have to say that my biggest complaint with Totemic that I talked about in my previous alpha video was that Healing Rain would be completely RNG once you placed Surging Totem, and now Healing Rain spawns on Surging Totem's location, and you can move it around with Totemic Projection. There's still a lot of bugs with Shaman. I can actually give you a small preview here. This is Thune's PDF file on all of the bugs with Shaman right now in beta. Mostly Totemic talents. Also, there's a lot of Farseer bugs. But yeah, hopefully that gets addressed within the next build for beta. But from the testing I've done, I do have to admit that I prefer Farseer in Keys. The reason behind it, oh, and I also forgot to talk about it. Farseer, I never really liked Farseer actually, and I gave you my opinion on that in my previous video, because the only way to trigger Ancestors previously was just with Unleashed Life, and now it's with Undulation as well. And this very small change just made it so Farseer is so much more enjoyable to play around. I do think that they could probably make it so that Unleash Life procs two ancestors, because with undulation, if you are quite with all the interactions that we have, especially with Primordial Wave and being quite offensive on undulation, you can spawn a lot of ancestors. Whereas with Unleash Life, you're kind of you are pretty much gated behind, sorry, a what is it, 15-second, yeah, CD, and it only spawns one, and then you kind of are relying on RNG procs. Obviously, you also have Primordial Wave, which is something that you can still benefit from, but in keys with Farseer, you are always playing undulation, pretty much in raid as well. But I still feel like they could make something more interactive with Farseer and Unleashed Life. But so far in keys, I've been enjoying Farseer a lot more. If you've been watching my Twitch VODs, you'll know that I've been playing a lot of Farseer. The reason why I've been preferring Farseer so far in keys is just because the overall gameplay and fluidity of the spec is there for me. You play pretty much, it's like so diverse. You play with Primordial Wave, you play with Cloudburst, you play with Riptide, you play with Healing Surge, you can play with Chain Heal, you play with Downpour, you play with Healing Rain, and it's so diverse, you know, there's so many things to pay attention to, and it's just so, like, thematically as well, having your buddies by your side, just when you proc like 4 and then you chain lightning and all of a sudden you see like everything being electrocuted, or you cast a healing rain and then all of them cast a big fat chain heal, and then you see all of these flows of jet streams all around, and it's just so much fun. And same thing with lava bursts, and I just feel like thematically speaking the talent tree is there, and gameplay wise it is also very there, and I've been enjoying Farseer a lot. That being said, I still feel like Farseer is a bit undertuned when it comes to Totemic in terms of healing and raw throughput. But that's honestly just a tuning thing. But gameplay wise, it's definitely my favorite, and it's probably the one that I'm gonna be playing mostly in keys. That being said, Totemic is also very strong. Um, but the thing with Totemic for me is that it's very simple. Totemic tends to prefer Healing Stream over Cloudburst. Also because there's a very big problem right now with a bug with Totemic Rebound where it deletes all of your Cloudburst sword healing, so people are just not playing Cloudburst with Totemic right now. Uh, and but there's also like more interactions with Healing Stream and Totemic right now that it doesn't benefit Cloudburst as much with Totemic. And even though you also sort of use mostly all of your toolkit, and this is me talking in keys mostly, even though you use mostly all of your toolkit as well with Totemic, it is very it's too simple for me to enjoy it, in my opinion. It feels as though Totemic does the healing for you, which it kind of does. If I'm gonna be honest, especially because of lively totems and all the interactions with chain heal and totems. You drop a totem, everyone gets AoE healed by chain heal, and then you also have Surging Totem, which is pretty much doing healing and damage passively for you. And even though there's fun interactions here in the talent tree, I just feel like in keys, Totemic is boring. Um, Whereas with Farseer, there's just so many things going on that it's fun to play around with. With Totemic, it feels kind of just it's doing the work for you and things are happening. That being said, I probably sound like I'm shitting on Totemic. I'm not. I just feel like I think and I know that I prefer Farseer in keys from a gameplay point of view. From a tuning point of view, though, Totemic seems to be leading ahead. Probably mostly both for damage and healing. So still waiting on tuning for my full opinion to be out there. But I've been enjoying Farseer, and if they buff Farseer the right way, sorry, I will be most likely be playing Farseer in keys because it's the most fun. It can be quite powerful as well, and it has potential just as Totemic does. But yeah, I'm also gonna give you a quick overview of builds and breakdowns that I've been playing. This is actually wrong. I need to change. But this is can I actually change the name? I can. Let's call Farseer no chain heal mythic boss. So this is pretty much what I've been playing in keys for Farseer. This is a build where if you've been playing with the APTC in the past, it's kind of the same thing. You still ignore chain heal with this specifically, with this specific loadout. All of your healing is gonna come from Healing Surge, Cloudburst, Riptide, Tidewaters, Downpour, Healing Wave. I can probably give you an example. In Stone Vault, this was the healing breakdown that I did with this build. Healing Surge is doing a lot of healing now, especially because we have a lot of modifiers, mostly because of Master elements, sorry, as well, and our new tier set. Our new tier set is very good for a very simplistic type of Season 1 tier set, so Restoration Shaman's got a good hang of that. Riptide, Cloudburst, Healing Wave, Earth Shield. Yeah, very solid breakdown. I'm always happy to see Farseer's breakdown because it's just so diverse, even though Healing Surge is doing a lot. What's another boss that I can show? I think I had a good breakdown on this boss, yeah. This is the third boss of Stone Vault on a 10, both Tyrannical and Fortified. Another beautiful breakdown, should I so to say. Downpour very high as well, because everyone's stacked. Earth Shield is doing God's work. Cloudburst as well, Healing Wave as well. Like, this is what I like to see, a beautiful, diverse breakdown, instead of just being all chain heal. I do like chain heal, don't get me wrong, but when I see chain heal doing all the healing, it just it's not very fun for me. So I'm happy to see that you can have this breakdown with Farseer. I also did a key with Farseer with chain heal. I also believe you can play this in keys if you want to play Farseer. It's pretty much the same thing. Instead of Torrent, I think I went for Ancestral Reach. You could possibly also play Flow of the Tides. Even though Flow of the Tides is stronger, I'm usually not a big fan of it, just because of how it works. And then I believe I sacrificed DRE with High Tide. This also works. I'm still not entirely sure if sacrificing DRE is the best choice here. I think it's also doable, but DRE is very good with Farseer. But you would have to sacrifice something else here to grab DRE, which is very awkward. And that's also one of the things I'm gonna go over soon. This is the breakdown of Farseer with Chain Heal. Also very solid. Healing Surge still leading the way. Cloudburst, Chain Heal, Riptide, Earth Shield, Healing Wave, etc. And for Totemic, I believe it was this one, yes. This is pretty much what I've been playing with Totemic, I believe. I'm checking my talents here, but I think I was playing without Primordial Wave. Pretty much the only gripe I have with Totemic. Oh, that's why, yeah. Pretty much the only gripe I have with Totemic is whenever you try to play a chain heal centered build, in keys where you want to take Earthen Harmony as well for the DR and Earth Shield healing, but mostly for the damage reduction, it's very awkward to take all chain heal talents and then you either sacrifice something in the Capstone area for Earthen Harmony, or you just don't take Earthen Harmony at all, which sucks because the damage reduction is great in keys. And not being able to take it because you play a specific build and it's just gated here, and it's so awkward to take, sorry, it's very awkward in my opinion. So the thing you would do is either play this and sacrifice Earthen Harmony, or sacrifice Primordial Wave, for example, and play Earthen Harmony. But yeah, I've been playing this. I also have a breakdown of this. This was a Mists 10. This was also with Healing Stream, sorry. And this is pretty much the breakdown. It's honestly very chain heal and healing stream totem centered. Still, there's a lot of bugs and a lot of things that are doing too much or not doing anything at all. So take breakdowns with a pinch of salt, but this is pretty much what you can expect from Totemic in a healing breakdown. Damage wise, kind of the same thing with Farseer. Um, your damage is gonna be, well, this is actually Farseer breakdown. But Totemic is gonna look kind of the same except for Ancestor's damage. But it's pretty much Acid Rain, Lava Burst, Chain Lightning, and Flame Shock. For Mists, in this case, it's gonna be mostly Acid Rain because it's just so easy to passively do damage with Surging Totem. But pretty much everything else is the same, except Lava Burst damage is lower because you don't have things enhancing Lava Burst damage, nor its charges like you do with Farseer, which is Elemental Reverb. But yeah, overall, both Hero Town trees work in Mythic Plus. Gameplay wise, I'm a big Farseer lover, and I'll be happy to play it. But yeah. And now for the very last bit of my feedback video, which I'll open the window here, is, let me just close this in game. I would like to see some changes still in the Spec Tree, which is mostly in the Capstone area. So even though I'm super happy with both the class and the Spec Tree changes, it's mostly the Spec Tree in the Capstone area that I feel like still needs to get some changes in the near future. Mostly the talents that are gating High Tide, and mostly the right area of the tree needs to be addressed in the future patch, because I don't think it's going to be addressed now. Even though I could give you, like Thune did, the answers where these talents could be moved into, and the devs could magically make that happen in the next week build. But I doubt that they're going to do that because pre-patch, like I said, is just around the corner, and making changes this late is a bit questionable, but it could be done. But I doubt it's going to be done. But I would be happy to see them being done in a future patch. I would like to see improved Earth Living Weapon removed or made into a PvP talent. I just don't like this talent. It doesn't make any sense in PvE, and if it's gonna be a PvP talent, then make it a PvP talent. Reactive warding is also very bad because you are only benefiting in PvE from Earth Shield, because the second component of this tooltip, when refreshing Water Shield, you are refunded X amount of mana for each stack of Water Shield missing. But in PvE, you never miss Water Shields unless you are meleeed or fixated, and the times that happens are so little and so few that you don't benefit from reactive warding at all. And so far, reactive warding is more of a tuning standpoint, if it's good or not. Right now, it's very mediocre. I understand and enjoy to some extent that they gave us a choice node for. It's not it's not really a choice node, but it's mostly a improved Earth Shield sort of gimmicky thing. But I still feel like it could be improved on, and I would like to see it being improved on. I would also like, and I forgot to annotate, I would like to see Earth and Harmony swap places somewhere else, because the way it is currently now here in the Spec Tree, it's very awkward to path through if you're playing a chain heal centered build. If you're playing Farseer, I feel like Totemic, Earthen Harmony is quite easy to path through. For Raid though, it is very awkward because you most definitely do not play it because you also have other talents that you kind of do need to play. But in keys, for Totemic, for example, it's awful to take Earthen Harmony unless you sacrifice Primordial Wave, which could make sense because Totemic is all around Chain Heal. So you could sacrifice Primordial Wave, even though for me personally it feels very awkward to play without Primordial Wave. But yeah, I would like to see Earthen Harmony swap places. I would even argue that you could make Manatite Totem baseline and move Earthen Harmony up here, and possibly even reactive warding here, or just make either make something completely new and replace reactive warding and make another choice node with that same reactive warding and put it beneath Earthen Harmony. Just make it like a choice node beneath Earthen Harmony so it enhances Earth Shield. Would be my own personal opinion. But I would definitely like to see Earthen Harmony be moved around because as of now it's just awkward to take. Also, High Tide is fine being here, but having two different talents that cost 2 talent points, which is not a problem though. It makes sense that it takes 2 talent points to get to High Tide because High Tide is a very strong capstone. I don't agree, however, that you have two talents that have literally zero interaction with Chain Heal that are getting High Tide. So you have Wastespeaker's Blessing that increases the duration of Riptide by 3 seconds, and you have Ancestral Awakening, which interacts with Healing Wave, Healing Surge, or Riptide, and not Chain Heal at all. And having two talents that literally make zero sense to be gated beneath High Tide being there, it makes no sense for me. And I feel like even you could possibly move Tidebringer here into one of these spots. Possibly even move Wastespeaker's Blessing around here since all of this side of the tree is Riptide centered. And Ancestral Awakening and Tidebringer being a choice here because it makes sense them being two sort of different talents for two different builds. So AA more of a Riptide, Healing Wave, Healing Surge build, and Tidebringer more of a Chain Heal centered build. And then it would make sense because it would pick Tidebringer to get to High Tide, and not AA to get to High Tide, which makes zero sense, or Wastespeaker's Blessing to get to High Tide, which also makes zero sense. But yeah, I would also like to see DRE swap places with Downpour. It makes sense because all of the other Shaman specs have had all of their Ascendance choice nodes in a row for ages. And it makes sense because it's all Ascendance related, right? So in my opinion, it would make sense for DRE to be beneath the talent choice nodes for Ascendance. So we would have Ascendance, you would have First Ascendance, Preeminence, and then you would have Deeply Rooted Elements. And that's a full row concentrated for Ascendance. And then you would have Downpour with a choice node between Wellspring. And in my opinion, it would make sense because they are both very strong AoE healing cooldowns. Well, not sort of cooldowns, but abilities, should I say. Wellspring, debatably, but they are both AoE healing spells, so it's kind of nice to choose between which one of them you would like to talent into. And then I think Wavespeaker's Blessing should go back to a 1.0 node instead of a 2.0 with node that they made it now, because very little will be the times where you are going to benefit from having 6 extra seconds on Riptide. So I don't think it makes that big of a difference having it be a 2 talent node as it is right now. And the Undercurrent, I feel like it's somewhat fine here because all of the side of the tree here is Riptide centered. But yeah, for the changes, for the suggestions that I made, I would like to see stuff in the Capstone area be moved around, because it's very easy to take talents here in the upper part of our spec tree and in the middle area as well. But when it comes to the end, it's just horrible to take a lot of stuff that you would otherwise take previously in Dragonflight for raid, for example. But now you just have so many stuff. But at the same time, if you want to go for something that's heavy Riptide centered, and then you need to get here to also take Earthen Harmony, which makes sense. But then you don't have enough talent points to go to the right side of the tree. It doesn't make sense. So I would like to see, like I said, a lot of a lot of talents here be moved around, and a lot of, for example, like I said, Tidebringer be moved around here, and be the one gatekeeping High Tide, and not talents that have 0 to no interactions with Chain Heal. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the changes that I would like to see addressed. I think I talked a lot about the class tree and spec tree changes that they did for Restoration Shamans, and I'm very happy to see them go live as is. I'm very excited to play Restoration Shaman in the War Within. Very excited to go back to Mythic Prog, as you might have known. I'm going back to raiding with my guild. Also excited to push keys with my team in Season 1. So, very bright future for us Restoration Shamans, and Shamans in general, I believe. Probably. I know Enhancement got good changes even the past week, but they're not in the happiest spot. But so far, I would say we Restoration Shamans are eating good, and I'm very excited to see how we perform in the War Within. But so far, we're going to be very solid. I'm happy to be playing the spec, and also happy to have you guys by my side. I think I'm going to conclude here. The video kind of just talked a lot and rambled on a bit. If you do have any feedback that you would like to see me improve on in future videos, do let me know. Feel free to comment in the comment section down below. Yeah, I'll see you guys on my next video. I hope you guys enjoy the future pre-patch in the upcoming week and for the rest of August. And I hope you have a solid and swift launch of The War Within. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and happy The War Within launch.